Ted, how you been?
Remember,
How are you?
years ago,
Oh, you're gonna take all this.
Professor Epps always started his class on time. When it's 1 o'clock, so we will begin. We'll have some more people coming in. Welcome. Good to see you all of you. I don't know if I'll have an opportunity at the end, so I'll give it at the beginning. But I want to thank all of today's speakers for having volunteered to be a part of this. And hope that you can stay for as much of this afternoon as is possible. You all have a schedule. The only potential schedule change is that the first group has asked to allow them to overrun by 15 minutes. So we will monitor that so that they do not go over by more than 15 minutes, and then we'll keep everybody else on track with their time frames. By the way, my name is Dave Hapke, and our first moderator today is Pete Hagerman. And Pete, take it away.
Thank you, Dave. Our panel, Tom DeBrule, who is Associate Dean of Students, heavily involved in Greek life at Lehigh. Bob Kirchberger, Lehigh 69, is president of the Beta Pi Alumni Association, which is now without a house. And the infamous Rich Bradley, Sigma Chi brother, and campus terror from many years ago. Let me start by saying it's impossible to hear all the views in 30 minutes, but hopefully we'll be able to open some minds and thereby enhance the future. If you have any thoughts or questions, time runs out today, please convey them to anyone on the panel by telephone or email. Tom is very accessible. We know alumni of band chapters are in many cases very unhappy, and that Lehigh loses support because of it. Not only emotional support, but financial support. I truly believe this stems from a lack of knowledge of the situation. And I think that's why we're here today, to give you our perspectives and hear your thoughts, and we're going to try to allow enough time for that. As a member of a band fraternity who was on the alumni board with Kurt when it happened, I was initially very upset with Lehigh's approach, but I grew to understand Lehigh's perspective. I'm an old guy who benefited immensely from my Lehigh experience, and I can tell you from our experience, and I'm sure Kurt will tell you, that things have changed. The good old days are unlikely to return. Lehigh has legitimate needs to reduce risk, enhance safety, maximize occupancy, all of which I'm sure Tom will mention. As I said, many of the alumni of closed chapters are not happy, and this is costing Lehigh. And I repeatedly hear, we alumni didn't cause this problem. Why are we being penalized to the degree that we are? So I think Tom will address that. Most important, we're in a crisis of sorts with regard to the fraternity system and the risks that we take, and we're all in this together. So our schedule is to try to stick to 10 minutes for each of our panelists and get to your questions to the degree that we can. And to the degree that we can't, hit us with emails or telephone calls or whatever. So I'd like to start it off with Tom, and look forward to hearing what you have to say, Tom.
Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for inviting me today. Your class specifically, I feel like I've heard about from years for my work with Joe King over the years. Joe was a fantastic member of our group working on Greek life, and we miss him dearly in working with him. I'm going to try to give you the last 10 years in about 10 minutes. Knowing we're not going to get through it all, I've sort of made some copies of handouts that have some of the details for you to look at, as well as my email information. I'll also leave my business cards. I would love to talk with anyone that has questions over time. Back in 2002, you may remember, we started the process, what we called Strengthening Greek Life. At that time, we had 7 chapters closed in the decade prior to that. So from 1992 to 2002, 7 chapters closed. 6 of them were closed by their national headquarters. 1/3 of fraternity members were declining bids given to them and talking about poor living conditions and the effects on grades. Fraternity occupancy was less than 75%. We were, at that time, the occupancy rate was 65%. Guys just did not want to live in the house. So what we did is spent a year working on strengthening Greek life. The trustees charged the committee to work on that, chaired by Joe Starrett from athletics. And the principles in working with that were partnership, working with alumni, working with national organizations, working with students and the administration, explicit standards. So everything else we were doing at Lehigh at that time was based on excellence, but we still were coming up short. So basing everything on excellence, accountability to make sure there was good ways to measure what we were doing and being successful, and honest and clear communications. For years up to that point, I started here in 1997. Communication between alumni, students, and administration was fractured at best. There was no trust in the room between anyone, to put it pretty honestly, and we needed to fix that. So what we did is we established a clear vision, we clarified the roles. What's an actives role? What's an alumni role? What's a student role? What's a staff member administration role? What's the national role of working with these chapters? Oftentimes we had students trying to sometimes do too much. We had alumni either trying to do too much, or some alumni groups were really just not accessible at all. So we really worked on clarifying the roles. The other thing we talked about doing is having to invest in the system, invest in the Greek community. We spent close to $7 million investing in the Greek community at that time. Everything from fixing up the chapter facilities, to hiring more staff to work with the chapters, to working with students to create programs, to create rewards for students' good work as well. And then also enhancing the working relationship trust. So from April 2002, when we first wrote kind of the white paper on Greek life, where we were and where we needed to go, until the Greek life implementation group finished their work in 2005, we were really heavily focused on how we not only fix our Greek community, but make it premier in the United States. And I'm happy to say I think we've done that, and I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of where we've gone there. One thing that we put into place for each chapter every year is an accreditation process, a Greek accreditation process. And what we do every year is we work with each chapter on 5 areas that we think are important for a viable Greek system: intellectual development of the membership, leadership development of membership, community development, so how they're engaged in both the Lehigh and the local community, organizational development, how they're working as a chapter, how they're functioning, how they're working with their national organization, their regional leadership, and facilities management. Every single year, and if you ever get the chance to come back in April and see a presentation, the accreditation presentation, every single year, each chapter sits before a committee of faculty, students, staff, and alumni, and present what they've accomplished this past year in these 5 areas. And it's incredible. We think it's great training for the students to really work on presentations, but more importantly, it really shows the highlights of the year and what they're doing as an organization. And they're rewarded with either a gold ranking of a chapter, silver, bronze, and then we go into poor and unacceptable. The first year we did this process, 2004, 2005, we had 3 gold chapters, 14 silver, 5 bronze, and 9 poor. Last year we're up to 9 gold chapters, 15 silver, 4 bronze, and only 1 poor. Chapters get it, and they're doing better. And they actually are starting to live their values, which is what's important to us. They are not just drinking social clubs, which for a little while in the 80s, when I was in college, that's what they became. I didn't go to Lehigh, but at my institution, that's what our chapter was, and that's what they became. But now the refocus has been on what's the vision, what's the values of the organization. The other thing that we've changed this year with the accreditation process, we've been tweaking it along the way. The nice piece about it is it also meets what the national standards need, and chapters are now taking their accreditation presentation and submitting it to their national headquarters for awards and for recognition and to show the national what they're doing. And I'll get to some of the high points of what that's resulted in as well. But it's a great process. The students actually seem to enjoy the presentation, get excited about it, a little nervous, but get excited. And then the back and forth questions between the students and the committee is really great to bring out what these students have gotten educationally, and that's one of the things we're trying to do. A couple pieces that came out of Strengthening Greek Life as well. As part of Strengthening Greek Life, the Office of Fraternity Sorority Affairs went from 2 staff members to 6 staff members. We are the most heavily, particularly a school of our size, we are one of the most well-staffed Greek life offices in the country. Other schools, University of Maryland, I think at one point in time had 2 people. We've got 6 for a school the size of Lehigh. And what that does is allow our staff to be more proactive in working with the students and working with alumni and the national organizations instead of strictly being reactive. The Greek Life coordinators, we have 4 of those folks. Tim Wilkinson's the director of Greek Life. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here today. But the 4 Greek Life coordinators work directly with each chapter and each alumni advisor. So they are on the phone with the alumni advisor on a regular basis. They're meeting with chapter officers once a week and helping them guide where they're going as an organization. Additionally, they send out written reports once a month to the alumni advisors of each group to make sure that they're keeping informed with what's going on in the chapter. Are things going well? Are there areas they're struggling with? And how we can engage the alumni. We also have a person specifically working on leadership with Greek chapters. For a number of years, some of our chapters thought Greek leadership was just having an executive board of a vice president, a president, a secretary, and then the president doing all the work. And we struggled with that for a long time. We have one staff member specifically working with chapters on leadership, how to run an organization, how to be effective leaders, how to utilize their executive boards the way they are, how to do visions and goals and planning for the year. And that's been a huge plus.